Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, chaps. Adam, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 15?
Yeah, I'm great, Fergie.
Good.
I definitely know this week it was a big green arrow, arguably was one of the biggest of the season. So up there with when I wild carded. So yeah, it was a very good game week, although like a lot of people, fairly tense. And it was, I don't know if it's exciting or not really, but throwing these servers in, um, yeah, it was a nightmare. But I managed to get my transfers through at I was gonna say 123. It wouldn't have been 123, would it be? Yeah, it would have been
Yeah, it
120.
would have, yeah, because it was a
One
1:30 deadline.
Yeah, got it through at 123. Kept refreshing. I had three things open and I got it through on the app. So yeah, I was pleased. So I bought in Alvarez and captained him for Mitrovic. I didn't know Mitrovic was out, I must say.
I think we had
At the
that
time.
news
So that
after the deadline, in all fairness. But
was yeah. I as soon as my transfer was done, that was me for the day, logging off, and then I bought in Rashford, who was terrible against Villa. I mean, he wasn't the only one, but I think he played on the wrong side for a start. He played on the right. Bought in Rashford for Foden, but overall for a -4, I got 80
very
points.
nice.
I got a green arrow up about 340,000 places. So the stars for me were James Justin got me 7 points. Unfortunate about his injury. I mean, I could have done without that happening, but I suppose for him that's devastating. I feel for him because he's had some really serious injuries. So that was a shame. Like everybody in the game, I own Trippier. I got Salah's 15-pointer. That was nice. An assist from Saka, which, to be fair, he was trying to do a Dougie Luiz, wasn't he? Shooting from corners. And that I didn't realise until when I saw it later on that he nearly scored from it, didn't he? So, but the star of my week, without any question, was the man who's 30 today, Wilfred Zaha. That was brilliant. Brace and goal and assist. Funnily enough, I think if we wouldn't have had the team news, I'd have sold him.
We were,
so that's
yeah. I think we were both talking about selling him last week, weren't we? And I think just as we left last week's pod, I think Rich said Zaha to Trossard, and it was as it panned out. I wasn't going to do that, but it was definitely in my mind as well.
Yeah. Well, it's I think when I bought him in, the logic was you needed to keep him for that whole. It was 7 game weeks, I believe, including the one that's coming up.
Yeah.
And I think I'd guessed that he was going to score 35 points. So far he's on 16, 17 plus, what is it? 17 plus 14. He's on 31.
Nice.
So
take that.
If he gets
Forest
4 or
away
5
next
points, week. Yeah, 4 or 5 points against Forest away.
Get an assist and a yellow card.
That's about right.
He did, yeah. Well, it puts me bang on the, but it's sort of, and it was in line with what the hub was predicting. So I think the lesson is you just got to give them a spell of games. People like Zaha are unpredictable.
Yeah, you do.
But I think him moving centrally and Edouard being out made Palace a better team. They were more solid. I think they allowed West Ham 0.19 XG, but they were great going forwards with the attacking flair of Eze, Elise, etc. And then the other two players to return for me was my captain Alvarez. Really like him as a player. He's got a finish as a finisher. He's just brilliant. Some of his finishes this season have been absolutely class, and I would love him and Haaland to both start the weekend. And then I've got Haaland's penalty, which is a bit fortunate, but fortunate to be given and fortunate to go in, I think. But then I think he did enough to return with the he was fractionally offside.
It was extremely fortunate for people that did that big switcheroo and got De Bruyne in, which was a very popular move, for the captaincy and that kind of thing. I was sitting watching the games and and listening to the games on the radio right up until the final whistle, and I'm looking at the kind of live scores and seeing that at the moment De Bruyne's on a 2-pointer and Haaland's on a 1-pointer, going into the 94th minute. and I haven't got De Bruyne. I've sold Foden, etc., etc. Now, this is a big win if they don't score. You know, that goal right at the end was a massive. People were moaning about the moderate returns from De Bruyne and Haaland, but the difference that made, you know, the swing there in that last minute was huge in FPL terms.
It was mad. The actual penalty that was given. There was. Did you see the Forest match? There was almost an identical one on Dennis, not given. It's like the consistency is a little bit of a joke, but yeah, you take that. I think it was sort of it was a win really for everybody. People who kept Haaland got something and didn't blank, so it's probably a good outcome all round. Not considering the service crash, because just to explain, I think considering the service crashed. It could have been a lot worse for people. It
wasn't very good for Christian in the chat. In the last seconds, he did manage to make his transfer. Salah out for KDB captain. So it was pretty good. He says another shit week. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, no.
Rich, great to have you back. What colour was your arrow in Game Week 15?
Good week in the end, but it was definitely in the end. I was caught up in the server crash, like pretty much everybody who was waiting for late team news. My story was the first thing I did when the team news broke at about 1:45 was I changed my captain first of all before I started to make my transfer, and that went through. You know, that went through in the first few seconds. So I swapped the captaincy onto Salah, and then proceeded to try and make my transfer, which was to sell Foden and bring Trossard in. Tried to put that transfer through, website crashed. Then proceeded for 15 minutes to, like everybody, try and spam the hell out of any website or phone app, or 15 minutes of frenzied hammering the keyboard, and no avail. Didn't find out until about an hour later that the transfer had actually gone through.
Oh, an hour later. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, when the site refreshed, you know, when the site came back up just before kickoff. So and that Trossard transfer had gone through. So kind of got away with one. Trossard also got an assist. I'd really bought him in for this week, you know, for his home game. But then obviously I've just explained what happened with the City stuff. I was a bit light on City players. Didn't captain Haaland, but everything came right, obviously, for me with the 30-pointer for Salah in the last game, and that resulted in my rank halving. So up just on the edge of the top 10k, and couldn't be happier
playing Rich
right now with that. So pretty cool.
Very well played. Quickly onto my team. I've got a bit of a sad story. I think in hindsight I was maybe a bit smug last week around the crashes. I was like, don't worry, happens to everyone. We're all in the same boat and all this jazz. But I did have the full force for this week. I'm not sure. Should I play the violin as I read through this? I've done a little bit of a timeline. I've done a little bit of
play
a timeline.
The violin.
I will play the violin. I've done a little bit of a timeline of what's happened. So I was on my way back from London anyway, and I said to the wife, this is about 12:30. I said, look, we're going to have to stop at my parents' house on the way, because I'm going to have to sort my team out, because I knew there was going to be chaos. And we were going out straight afterwards. I said, look, I'm gonna have to do it. And I saw that Team News and Ticks, for those who were asking last week in the comments, at Team News and Ticks is the Twitter account who kind of releases the news. Anyway, they said they were posting at 1:10, and they ended up posting a video on Instagram. I don't know if you guys saw it, but
is that Pep Guardiola bald wig?
It looked like a parody.
Brilliant.
So this was posted at 1:10. It looked like a parody. So for a minute or two, it was about, do you believe it or not? Because he was saying that Haaland and Foden were both being benched. So for a couple of minutes, I was on an hour in. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go with it. It's off this one. He's not going to risk his reputation by giving false information. So I went in at 1:15, and obviously the site had frozen. Now the transfers I planned, based on that information, was to do Mitro to Alvarez captain and Foden to Rashford. Obviously the Rashford one wouldn't have really paid off. But Mitros for Alvarez would have been a really nice hit, obviously. So I downloaded the app. And I got it downloaded, logged in, said logged in. I thought, oh, thank goodness for that. Went in, it didn't recognise my team. So obviously, because I'd gone in fresh, for some reason, it hadn't pulled my team, so I couldn't make the transfers on then either. So the deadline rolled around, 1:30. I'm absolutely gutted, and we'd arranged to go out with our friends to watch the rugby. Wales were playing in the rugby, so we're down the pub with my wife and my friends around 3 o'clock, and I'm checking my phone, and I see the lineups. This isn't another. At 3:27, Cancelo gets a red, which is obviously like, what? That is like, you're absolutely crazy. Bear in mind, I've captained Haaland, and I've got Cancelo as my vice captain. But then to realise that it was Andreas had scored the penalty. So I had Cancelo vice and Andreas first on my bench. So I was in the unbelievable position of that if Haaland comes on, I miss out on Andreas's bench points. But if he doesn't come on, my vice Cancelo goes to -2 to -4. There's literally a no way. Whatever happens, I'm losing points. It's just like it was awful.
What did you want to happen at that point?
I think just obviously based on ownership, probably Haaland to come on because he was my captain, So if he got a point, it would have doubled up, which obviously happened. But all this time I'm in the pub with my friends, and obviously in my mind I've had a couple of drinks. I'm trying to work out what is happening here, because obviously it's not very often you find yourself in that sort of scenario. Haaland comes on and scores, and I go wild because, again, I've had a couple of drinks. I'm thinking, after all this, Haaland's come on and scores. It's going to be amazing. And obviously, it's chalked off. So I was like, wild celebration to, I don't believe it. And then obviously, he nearly missed his penalty as well, which thankfully went in, because that would have just rubbed the salt in the wound. But I think overall, it's cost me 13 points. But what FPL does to us, my friends thought I was absolutely bonkers, because for that hour I'm up and I'm down and I can't, and they when they know I'm a Spurs fan, but they just see me go haywire about this Man City match and everything what's going on. So it was absolutely crazy.
So before we go on to the rest of the show, based on those three experiences, what are you going to do again this week? Because Manchester City is the early kickoff again. Again, I'm sure Mr. Team News and Ticks is going to come out and say he's got news, and even more people are going to try and tune into that now to find, if they're available to do that, to try and find out what's going on. So pretty much now you'd say it's 80% likely that the servers are going to crash again.
I think the situation's slightly different this week for a couple of reasons. But the main one being, it's from what we've seen, I think it's likely Haaland's going to start. I think if Haaland's benched, that's when the issue will be, because most people, most people are captains or will captain Haaland this week. So I think if he starts, there won't be as big an issue. That's what I think anyway. If he's benched, the chaos.
It's going to be madness.
Exactly. Assuming that we know as well. I think I'm in the position where both of you, you've got Foden, haven't you, Fergie?
Yeah.
And
I've got rid of Foden. I've got 2 City players.
So you're in quite a good position, I think, Rich, because you could just make your transfer and just change your captaincy. So you've only got the captaincy to worry about, and that's what I would do if I was in your position. I think in our positions, so I've got Alvarez, which means I probably have to wait for a leak, because if he's starting for any reason against Brentford, and Brentford have typically against top 6 play 5 at the back, and that's where, particularly if they play a low block, they may he may play them both together.
I don't think you'll get a leak, Adam, because what he tends to leak is like one player or 2 players. So I reckon he'll just spell like Haaland starts, which means nothing to you. Well, nothing. It decreases Alvarez's chance of starting, but it's not going to tell you he starts, does it?
Yeah, that's true. But he might say De Bruyne's benched or something. There might be something in there
agreed.
that you are right. There is that possibility, but I still think I'm gonna wait for it. What I've done. So my son has got a birthday party at 10:30 this weekend. And I thought
sounds just like Praz's.
But
come on to that.
But I've learned from his experience. So what I've done, I took my wife out last night. It was pre-planned, but we went to a nicer restaurant, and I've had the conversation that she's going to be taking him to the birthday party. So I've got complete free reign to gamble with the servers, basically, with multiple devices. I'm going to have to chance it because, like I said, I've got Alvarez, so because I'd like to do the Alvarez to Darwin move, but if Alvarez is playing,
starts, you don't sell, do you?
No way. I think the guy's brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely love him as a player. So I'd love both him and Haaland to start. Would be my ideal. I'd probably even prefer Alvarez to start and Haaland be benched. But then actually that might increase the server drama. So yeah, but they've got to sort them out. It's embarrassing. It's just absolutely Mickey Mouse. I don't get it.
Let's say hello to a few people in the chat. Tom Minter is in. Gary Ticker, Anup Batarai, Nigel Bennett, G Davidson, Christian Lundstrom, Russell Glenn, FPL Swanson. Big A asks, is it too late for violin moments? Get them in the chat. We've had a few. Dal is in. Dan Megan, Ezra, Mr. Matt Ivy, took out Foden, benched Haaland, and captain Cancelo. Well done. And FPL Friday's in, and someone, Sahil, captain Cancelo, tripled my rank. And Stephen Moore says, like that, Adam, bribe the wife for FPL. Love it. What it does to our lives is unbelievable, isn't it?
That's right. You've now, in order to now play the game well, or play the game, and take advantage of every situation. You've now got to devote your entire Saturday to waiting for some random person who we don't even know who he is to leak some team news. So that you can, make your transfer in a tiny window that is affected by technology. It reminds me of the days when, Fergie, you play golf, don't you? 20 years ago, you couldn't get on a golf course, so you had to give up your entire Saturday and go and sit in a bar at a golf club so you could book for the following week.
Yeah, it's mad.
This is now what FPL is becoming like.
Can either of you do good impressions? Because that would be a good way to get in with team news and ticks.
It would, wouldn't it?
I could do that quite good.
So you get the
accent. He was very good.
Yeah, he was very.
I could have a go.
Just quickly before we go, I just want to wish a big happy 40th birthday to Gitto from Cardiff. Much love from Owen. Happy birthday, Gitto. This evening we're gonna do a very quick season review. So we're going to have a look at our season so far and see how we're doing. Are we happy or not? Any kind of big mistakes or, any learnings? And we're then going to do a 1 week punt of drafts for Gameweek 16. So obviously it's all about making transfers. People have either got one, or I've got two this week. I'd intentionally got two, obviously, because I missed the deadline. But most have one, some have two. So we're going to draft players under 10% owned. That's going to be really good fun. We're all going to pick 5 each and give our reasoning why, and then we're going to run a competition over the break then to see who scores the most points in those. So let's get into it. But firstly, violin moments of the week. And say there's a few. There's so many different permutations. It's unbelievable. But let's start off. This was Praz. Praz, very, very popular on Twitter. Captain Mitrovic, very, very smart guy, Praz, as we know, and he made a smart move, which kind of backfired, but he captained Mitrovic, and the reason he did that was his planned transfer was Mitrovic to Haaland, and when you make a transfer and leave the captaincy on, the captaincy stays on that player you're taking out. So he thought, I'm going to take one step out of the equation and do it. So a really, really smart move. However, obviously, he couldn't get in to do the change. So the captaincy stayed on a non-playing Mitrovic with his vice-captain on Cancelo for So
it's such a smart... It's so unlucky.
It's really clever. And Praz is a great sport. He's really good fun. And just one of those things, Praz. So unlucky. Charlie Chan says, here's one for the violin section. Heard the City team leak. Foden, Haaland out. Spent 10 minutes fighting to change my captain. Got it in with 3 minutes left. Thank goodness for that. Changed it to Cancelo. Took a -4. And what's worse, Andreas was second sub. So that didn't work out well for him. But our winner this week, hi Fergie, this is off Chris J. Could this be a contender? He said he took a...
Oh God, here we go. This is
a good point hit. Which included taking out Mo Salah. 16-point hit. Salah. And the 4 players he brought in. So he brought in KDB and captained him for Salah, which was obviously a massive loss there. He brought in Callum Wilson, who was taken off at half-time injured for a 1-pointer. He brought in Scamacca, who was brought off half-time.
Half-time.
Brought in Henderson for a 0-pointer. So they were his 4 transfers. And he also had Ward, Justin, and Andreas on the bench. He says, nightmare.
Oh my God.
Don't mess with it. After a few beers. If he'd have done nothing, he would have been approximately 40 points better off. So, don't drink an FPL. You are all...
That's one where you want the service to save you, isn't it?
You are
You're thinking, why didn't the service save me? Yeah.
You are all honorary members of the Violin Club for this week. We've got plenty in the chat as well. But yeah, what a week! You know, I think we all suffered this week. You know, or most of us suffered. So don't worry, you're all in with us. We're all in it together. He is hoping for a better game week 16. Okay, so let's have a quick look at our seasons so far. We're going to come to Adam first. Adam, got your game week history so far. Obviously, we don't want to go into loads of detail, right? But at a high level, how would you summarize your season so far? And what kind of, are you happy or not? And how do you see yourself moving forward?
I think there's a bit of a pattern emerging between maybe the last 3 or 4 seasons of how I'm starting. I tend to do okay game week 1, and then between game week 1 and maybe game week 10 or there or thereabouts, I struggle quite badly, and it just doesn't come right. And I think part of that is I'm much better when I've got good information of the players that I like. I've actually seen patterns, etc. The one difference that I've done this year, as you'll know, I'm quite impulsive at using my first wild card. I was last year. I had been and I like using it early, but I managed to hold off till game week 8, and I think it was a very good decision. It's worked out relatively well since then. So, and I think there's obviously a couple of players I'd have tweaked and changed looking back, but on the whole, I think I can say it's been a fairly successful wild card. Yeah. And I'm looking forward now to the to setting my team up post game week 16, because I think I've got some good ideas about how I want to play, how I want to use my squad, where the value is, and yeah, so and because I think the people that have typically done quite well this year have been in that position where they can roll transfers quite easily, and they've trusted their players. And there's been a few players I picked or rushed transfers, particularly earlier on in the season. So, I'm looking forward now to that break. But I'm fairly confident about how I'm going to play the rest of the season.
Good.
And I think I could have had a slightly better start, but I think I've got it back as much as I can do. And now it's just about getting to, it'd be great to get a green arrow this week, but if I stay roughly where I am, I'll be content. Because it's 16 game weeks, but we're really 15 in, aren't we? Because we had that one game week cancelled. So I think there's loads of opportunity in the second half of the season to make ground, because of the number of double game weeks there'll be. Not quite as many as last year, but there'll be the opportunities. So I think there's plenty of game weeks where there'll be high upside. And the other thing that's quite good about this year is the ranks. If you look at the points difference, it's so congested. So, if you look, 40 points separates, you could go up. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not much at all.
That's right.
So
yeah, good stuff.
That's what I would say generally.
Only 2 red arrows in the last 8 game weeks, which are fairly recent. But you went on a good run, had a bit of a setback, but obviously you've made it back now. So 363k, Adam, at this point of the season, I think is more than reasonable. It's even though you're the lowest of the 3. I think that's a very, very good position to kind of be in. All the chips in hand, I think it's good.
Plenty of time.
It is, and one thing I've got to work on is the start of my season going forward, because it's been bad the last few things, but I think since game week 8, I've got it back under control, and I'm quite good. I've noticed the last 2 seasons I've finished the season really well from back game week 30 onwards. So this is a key part for me now to get right, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. Rich, flying. Only 1 red in the last 9 weeks, which was a smallish red. How is your season going?
Yeah, delighted. As I said earlier, couldn't be happier with the current rank and position. Probably really early to get this high. Despite several years of getting decent ranks. And last year got to the top 10k by about Christmas time. But this is well in advance of that. So it's really, really happy. I mean, I think Adam mentioned the game week 8 wild card, which was, if you remember, was kind of forced on us about a week early because of Her Majesty's death, which you guys had the unfortunate task of announcing while you were doing a pod, right?
Oh, yes,
I think she died during one of your podcasts. So after that, we all brought the wild card out. We got all the games were cancelled. We got about a week and a half to work on it, and since then it's just been amazing. I've just gone from like 760k to 10k in about 8 weeks. So it's just really good. I was thinking about what to say about how has that happened and what have I done? How have I managed that's helped that? I mean, obviously, one thing you notice if you look on the right hand side, I haven't taken a hit yet. No hits at all season. And when you've got bunched ranks and you've got template-ish teams, it's not having taken a hit that's starting to make a difference. If you've got someone who's got 5 hits, that's 20 points, and that will make a massive difference in terms of whether you sit at 10k or whether you sit at 70 or 80k, by now. So definitely, playing patiently, staying with fairly safe herd captaincy picks. I haven't done anything spectacular. I haven't been brave enough. It's those that have gone out and gone, right, I really want to make a move. I'm going to go Salah when everyone's going Haaland. Those are the guys that have been burnt, certainly in the early season. So sort of staying with the herd and going with the majority picks. And I think for me, the key thing to getting so high has been getting on the right players early. I bought Foden in on my game week 8 wildcard. He hadn't done anything to that point. So then I enjoyed that period of form when nobody owned him and he scored 6 or 7 goals, getting on Callum Wilson again, in time for his 19-point haul, that sort of thing. So those big sort of headline hauls, I've done quite well over catching some of those. But then also when I've made free transfers, I was looking back, everyone I've brought in has delivered a return almost immediately. So I'll list a few: Saka, White, Dunk, Mings, Trossard, Mitrovic. I've done those transfers in as free transfers, and the guys returned immediately the week afterwards. It's not a spectacular return, but it's like between 6 and 10 points, and you need to be satisfied with that when you bring a player in. So I've kind of done well without it always being about a haul. So it's just all really come together in terms of the transfers haven't been wasted, given the players time to return, and just played the basics well. I prefer FPL when it's like this. If you remember last year, Ferg, I didn't take a hit up till Christmas last year, and then I sort of managed to hold the rank until the chaos season started, when all the chips got played and the double game week started, and we got a bunch of cancellations and reinstatements. It's when that happens, I'm not as good. I'm not as good a player. I prefer it when it's nice and boring, nice and dull, nice and steady.
I think though, when those things happen, I personally think, and this won't be a popular opinion, but I think when that happens, luck takes just a much greater hold than it does elsewhere, like it is now in the season where you're plodding on week to week. Like the luck factor goes up to almost like 90%.
More variance, 90%. Isn't there?
It's just like it's which side it lands on, and we'll all have good luck and we'll all have bad luck. It's whether it kind of balances out during that period or not. Because I think for you it may have balanced out a little bit, but for some it just kept on getting worse and worse again. For example, and it's but yeah, that I wouldn't kind of beat yourself up about that. I suppose what I'm saying, because it was absolute chaos. Games being called off on the day.
Last season,
games being called off on the day.
Season was huge. But when you've got kind of like a perma captain situation like we've had for most of this season, I know Haaland's injured now, and that whole variance thing starts to come in when the player you're going to captain may not play. Yeah. But if the player is fit and he's clearly standing out, you've taken the captaincy out of the game. So you've got that massive high variance point that's been removed. It's very difficult to gain when things are like that, but it's also very difficult to mess it up if you just stay with the herd. So I like it when it's like that, but I'm sure that what are the word, the silly season is coming, winter is coming, isn't it? It's kind of, we know it's around the corner. I think we've got 14 to 17 games to reschedule.
Hopefully we'll have set fixtures a few weeks in advance, so you can properly plan. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm absolutely, the one last thing I'll say is in no way at all am I complacent about this in any way, and I will be doubling down to try and just stick around. Yeah.
Well played, Rich. Excellent season so far. Looking at mine, bit of a similar pattern, I think, to last season, and I kind of get stuck in a bit of a rut that I find hard to get out of. So I think I spent out of my 38 game weeks last season, I think I spent a good between 25 and 30 game weeks stuck in between 100 and 200k. I just could not move out of it, and it's been very much a similar story so far this season. So wildcards in game week 8, and I got up to 220k in game week 10. We've had 6 game weeks in that time, and I'm at 224k. So I've moved 4k in 6 weeks. I would say if I did manage to get my transfers through this week, I would have probably knocked about 80k off my rank. I'd probably about 150k. So I'm probably, I think that is a bit, harsh, I would say, in terms of I deserve that. But I do leave some points on the bench, which I did all last season. And I think sometimes I go for players a bit too early, which I did last year. So I went for I went for Foden and Son in game week 10 when they had no ownership and they were doing nothing. And then I took them out 4 or 5, later because they were doing anything, and then they fired. I started off this season, game week 1, Almiron. I had Trossard in my team at some point. I think I'm pretty good at finding the players. It's just my timing seems to be off about when to bring them in.
Yeah,
and how long to hold them.
We laughed at you when you said Almiron, didn't we? We laughed at you.
Well, everyone
laughed at him. We laughed at you, and look at what he's done.
So
you picked him. You were the first, community player to pick him out.
Yeah, and and with Trossard as well. If you look at the two, maybe 2 of the 3 or 4, probably FPL superstars this season, it's probably fair to say that those 2. Are in there, I think, and I think I'm okay at spotting the players. It's just my timing, and because I get the timing wrong, then it affects my rank. Is I'll bring them in, so I'm effectively almost wasting a transfer because they don't return, and then when I take them out, they do that, and I do leave points on the bench. So I think I need to find a way of just improving my timing a little bit, and not and just doing that. But yeah, overall 224k. I'm not going to argue with that when we're nearly touching 11 million players now. That's like the top, I think it's 0.2% of players in the game after 15 game weeks, which is, is fine. So I'm kind of happy with that. So, but interesting. I think all 3 of us have had really good starts. Obviously, Rich, you've probably had, a start which has probably exceeded your expectations. But I think for the rest of us, very, very good start. I think we've played pretty well, and hopefully we can all push on and make a real push in the second half. But thank you for that, gents. Let's look ahead to game week 16. So we've got the fixture ticker up just for game week 16. Just a quick look at the the plum fixtures according to Fantasy Football Hub. Liverpool home to Southampton, Spurs home to Leeds. Both got Bournemouth against Everton. West Ham play Leicester. Man City play Brentford. So some big opportunities, I think, there to kind of attack the game week. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to play a bit of a game, and we're all going to pick 5 players each, 1 week punts, but under 10% ownership. So we're going to try and pick out some players who are going to do it. I did look at Perisic, didn't realize he's 22% owned. I was pretty shocked when I saw his ownership. But what we're going to do it Rich's idea in a kind of American style snake draft. So whoever's lowest rank, the one which is Adam, is going to get first pick, and we're going to go back and forth and just give some players and some rationale as to why we are picking these players. Great idea this was, Rich. I've just stolen your thunder there, Rich. I've just explained it all. It's actually your feature, so apologies for that.
That's all right, mate. No, I think it was your idea, to be honest.
Okay.
But, yeah, fine.
So, Adam, do you want to pick first? This is under 10% owned. Do you want to pick a player?
There's one more rule, isn't it? We must pick a defender, one defender, right? Is that right?
One defender, one striker, one midfielder.
At least one, yeah.
We've binned off goalkeepers because that'd be very, very boring.
Okay, Adam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. I won't tell you who I've ruled because there were 2 or 3 that this was between. So just so I don't give you guys any ideas, I won't tell you who I've ruled out. But this player, in my opinion, is the best player in the game under 10% owned. So that's a great starting point. He's got, in his last 20 Premier League appearances, he's got 9 goals and 8 assists. He's had more shots, action. So he's had 47 shots or chances created in the last 7 game weeks, which is more than anyone else. And I'm delighted that Gareth Southgate's picked this guy for England today. So I've gone with, and I just absolutely love the guy. So I've gone with James Maddison. I think West Ham are looking all over the place at the moment, and I just think he's fixture proof. So for me, he's got goals, he's got assists, and I can, out of every single player playing this weekend, there will not be a player with more of a smile on their face and as much confidence as this person. So I think, I'm happy with going for Jimmy Maddison.
Well done, nice pick. Pick. I wasn't sure he'd go number 1, but he was.
Well,
on my list.
There were a few of us who I thought if other people going first might pick, but he's 9.9% owned.
I was going to ask for his ownership. 9.9. Wow.
9.9% owned. But looking at all, I've just looked at a quick glance at all of the players. Definitely from an FPL perspective, I don't think there's a better player with lower ownership. There might be a couple which might be contentious, but yeah, he's right up there. So fixtures could be better, but he's a talisman of that team. So yeah, happy with James Maddison.
Fair. I'm next. I am next. So I think I am going to go for, and I'm not overly enamoured with him, but I'm going to go.
Good build up there. He's pretty shit. Not too exciting. I'm building my player up, getting the build.
Well, I haven't prepared as much as you, Adam. I didn't do a massive, piece of thing. But I am going to go for. I go for Darwin Núñez. He's 8.4% owned. Like I say, I'm not overly enamored just because I think Southampton have been a bit unfortunate the last few weeks with the results that they've had. I haven't been massively impressed with Núñez either. I think he's been okay. He gets off these kind of long range, really hard snapshots, doesn't he? But he wasn't doing what we thought he was going to do at the start of the season, which is be there for all the tap-ins. So, but I do think really nice home fixture. Liverpool, obviously, improved. They played well against Spurs. His minutes are a concern, but 8.4% owned. I think he's good, and I think he's a good option to bring in for people this week as well, especially if you can afford to go from Mitrovic, which a few people could. So, I'm going for Núñez. Who are you going for, Rich?
Well, I think I get the next 2, don't I?
You do get the next 2.
We snake back. Right, okay. So I'm going to try and do this a bit tactfully. My choice for the 3rd pick is I'm going to get my defender choice out of the way.
Very clever. Very clever.
This player is only 4% owned.
I know it is. He's next on my list.
And he's affordable. And if you fancy him from an upgrading a defender this week, then I'd recommend it. Plays Southampton at home. 6.7 million. It's Andrew Robertson of Liverpool.
Cracking pick.
Yeah,
only 4% owned.
I couldn't believe he was only 4%
Crazy.
owned. So Robbo's in for me, and that's.
Do you know? Just while you're mentioning Robbo, I don't want to poo-poo your pick, but I will do. So Liverpool in the last, let me bring it up just so I'm right, and I'm using the hub stats. In the last 8 game weeks, I think overall, their expected goals conceded are, where are they? The second worst. Fulham's only more.
It's unbelievable,
conceded,
isn't it? Unbelievable.
Listen to this. So this is the last 8 game weeks. So since game week 8, they've conceded 23 big chances in 7 matches. So
I'm thinking as a 1 week punt, he's got a great chance of attacking returns, and I'm just thinking.
I think he's a good shout, but I'm not surprised. And I had him on my shortlist, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if Southampton score. I mean, 23 big chances in 7 games.
Good, not good.
Mental.
So it's purely a 1 week punt. I wouldn't have a Liverpool defender after the World Cup.
Who's your second one, Rich?
Okay, right. Second one is a player that hasn't featured very much in the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
I'm not even sure he's necessarily going to start at the weekend, but he didn't get a game last night when Tottenham got beat at Nottingham Forest. So, again, this is really punty. I'm going for Dejan Kulusevski of Spurs as my second pick. Think he could do really well. I know there's a lot of talk of Perisic starting up front on the left, but I think Kulusevski's going to get a start, and I think it's playing Leeds, aren't they? So I think they'll concede quite a few chances.
I did notice Richarlison was back last night. It was quite interesting. I'm not sure he's going to start on the weekend, but anyway,
3.9% owned.
Over to you, Fergie. Can we have a bit more enthusiasm about this one?
Yeah, sorry,
Get a bit more excited.
I'm incredibly excited about this person, right?
Brilliant.
Who am I going to pick next? I leave my defender again. I'm going to go for someone else. And I am going to go for a player who I believe he's gone under the radar all season. He is always he's always in the top 10 or 15 plays for predicted points every week. He's been quietly doing okay. He very, very rarely hauls. But I think the fixture this week is really good. And I think he's got a good chance. He's 8.8% owned. And he is Bernardo Silva, who goes. I think he goes under the radar a lot, and he gets a lot of assists, gets the odd goal. And I think
he got benched last night, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think for a 1 week punt against Brentford, and the only reason and I think we've been talking about this for the last month or so. The only reason he's not on anyone's radar is because Cancelo, De Bruyne, or Foden, Haaland have been the kind of go-to 3, haven't they? So, but I think he's good in his own right. So yeah, Adam, who's your next pick?
Oh, I've got 2 in a row.
You have got 2 in a row. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, this is tough. So, which one do I go for? Okay, I'm going to go for Bruno Fernandes. So I think back to me. I don't think Ronaldo will start, so it means he gets pens.
Nice.
In fact, I haven't checked his ownership. I'm assuming he's
2%.
Oh, is he?
2%. Can you believe that? 2% owned.
Can you believe Bruno is 2% and Robertson is 4%?
I know. I just think he'll most likely be on penalties. He's been creating a lot of chances. I think he's a good option. And Fulham, I was talking about the top teams, the most leaky teams, Liverpool being second worst, Fulham are worst. So there's a few other options. I think we might be revisiting this fixture potentially for a couple of other players, but I'm going to go for Bruno.
Nice.
This is the hardest one because I've got my okay. I will go for which one do I pick? Let the tension build up a little bit.
Say more like dead air.
Well, do you know what I'll go for? The player that I like as a player is he scored last weekend. And I think if Zaha plays through the middle, it makes him better as well. And it's Elise. I like both Eze and Elise, but I think he looked great again the weekend. And I think Palace will go that way. And Forest, again, quite leaky. So, yeah, I think I will go for Elise.
Good shout. I'm going to go for my defender now, I think, just to get out of the way, because I do have a couple of low-owned forward players, and I don't want them pinched. But I'm going to go for Zinchenko for Arsenal. Away
very good shout.
Away to Wolves, 7.8% owned. Obviously only so low owned because he's been out, but he's back in the team, started last week. And they play Wolves, so I fancy clean sheet there. And, obviously he's always there for attacking returns. So Zinchenko is my third pick. Rich, back to you for 2 picks. Your final 2, are they? Yes, they are.
Yeah, no, I've only got.
No.
Only had
you've
two
only had
so
2.
far.
Sorry, yeah.
I've got one to come, I think. Okay, this is going to get hard for the 4th pick. I'm going to go for Dominic Solanke.
Wow. Against Everton, is it?
My home to Everton.
Yep.
Yeah, I might even bring him in for Mitrovic in my real team because I haven't really got much places to go off Mitrovic. So yeah, Solanke's 5.3% owned. Obviously, he's another player that we laughed at when we started suggesting he was a good pick, but he's consistently performed. 3 goals, 2 assists or something. He's at good returns. And Bournemouth are scoring a lot of goals. They sometimes lose, but they do well. So Solanke, I think, is good for a punt for me this week. And then it starts to get a bit difficult. If you're only supposed to have one defender.
A minimum of one
defender. It's a minimum of one.
Minimum of one. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think I'll take a bit of a punt on. He's a bit out of favour at the moment. He didn't make the World Cup squad, but he's still, going to start, I think, and do well the weekend. So I'll go for Jared Bowen.
Great shout.
He's
Leicester,
3.5% owned now. 3.5%.
Yeah.
Unbelievably low.
There's a reason he's 3.5% because he's been absolutely terrible.
Absolutely pants. But I'm taking 1 week punt. And the 4th pick, I'll have him. There we are.
Like that.
It snakes back to you as well now, Rich, doesn't it?
He's had 2, Solanke and Bowen.
Oh, sorry.
Is it me now?
No, it's me now.
So 2 now.
It's back to me. I'm going to do a stupid, well, not a stupid one. I'm going to do a punt. I think there's rationale behind it, but this player is only 0.9% owned. He is playing the 2nd worst defense since game week 8 or 9. He's been very, very unlucky in the last few weeks. His teams and his own XG have been very high. He had an XG in one game 2 weeks ago, something like 1.3. I think he had a high XG last week as well. He's been very unlucky. And I am going for a team who is playing against Liverpool. I'm going for Southampton, and I'm going for Che Adams because I think he's been very unlucky the last few weeks. I know it's a punt, but 0.9%. I fancy him. I just can't see a clean sheet for Liverpool, so I fancy him to score. And if they're going to score, it's going to be Adams. So I'll go for him.
I think you'll see the words "big chance missed."
Yeah, you're probably right. You are right.
He's the sort of player, like Bamford's another one with it that loves missing a big chance. Good shout. I do actually like that shot. I do think Southampton will score as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, you get 2, and one of them's got to be a defender.
Okay, well we'll leave. Okay, let's get the defender out of the way. I would Zinchenko and Robertson were my favourite ones, but the other one that I do like. So I was quite happy playing James Justin this week. So I think Leicester have really changed their approach. They've been very good defensively, and West Ham's XG in their last home game was 0.19. It was terrible. So I fancy Leicester in this match, and Castagne is someone who is, I think he's in the, let's have a look what I've got here.
He's still under 10%. Is he still under 10% owned?
I think so. Let's check.
Wow.
Let me check this. It's going to VAR, this one. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Let's have a look. Yeah, 7.8%.
Okay, well.
He's okay. Yeah, he's all right.
Fair enough.
He's I think he's second since game week 8. He's the second top scoring defender, and he's 3rd for expected points. So, and he's getting some big chance involvement. So Castagne for me. And then my last pick, I've got to go for a Villa player. I had a couple of Brighton ones down, but I think I'm going to go for, it's between 3 different Villa players. So I'm going to pick the one because I've got to go for one for every position. So actually by default, I have to go for a forward. This player, since game week 8, is the 4th highest player for expected points. And since game week 8, only Gabriel Jesus has had more big chances than him, and it's Ollie Watkins. He was absolutely brilliant the weekend, and there was he did an interview where he's talked about Villa's tactics shifting, where rather than putting loads of energy into chasing long balls, which is what was happening under Gerrard, it's about getting building up from the back and getting good balls into them. And I don't know if you've seen the first and the third goal for Villa. And actually the second goal was partly down to his pressing. He was absolutely brilliant. And Unai Emery's quite good. If you look at his teams, and I saw a tweet on this the other day, and I don't know, but the strikers tend to always do really, really well. And I think it's good for Bailey as well, by the way. But the strikers tend to do really, really well. So I think Aubameyang got the golden boot under Emery. I think Negredo's done well. Moreno did very well a couple of seasons back. So he's turned Danjuma into a decent striker. So I'm expecting big things for Ollie Watkins. And his stats have actually been quite good in terms of expected numbers. He's good for goals and assists, and I think he really suits playing that wide forward line. And Brighton are giving up chances, and he's a sort of player that can get in behind and cause damage.
Yeah,
so I think
they've had two great performances and one drubbing, haven't they? So do you think this weekend we're going to get a good away performance from Villa?
They've only had one. They've only played one match under Emery, and they're playing tonight against Man United. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But tactically, we don't know, because actually I've been impressed with Brighton, but you can create chances against them. So I think it will come down to, can we stop them from creating chances, and can we make some smart breaks against them? And I think we'll score, and I think Watkins will be involved.
Superb. Okay, thanks for that, Adam. And your fifth player as well. Or have you done the 5?
No, he's done it now.
No, I'm all done.
So it's my last player now then. So I'll run through. I've got kind of left on my list. Well, I've only got 2 or 3 actually. I think.
Don't give me any clues though, Fergie.
Okay, I think
I've still got a pick.
I've already picked an Arsenal player. I don't want to go for him. I am going to go for. I'm gonna go for another team that is playing against a team. I expect a big win. Yeah.
You're going for someone who's playing a team against a team. That's interesting.
I'm going to go for someone who is playing for the underdog. So very similar to Che Adams' pick. But this player, I expect them to lose the game, but I expect the team to score. So very similar to how Liverpool are as well. I think Spurs at the moment defensively are awful, really, really bad. And Lloris has saved, even though he hasn't been, on top form, he has made some incredible saves as well. So I think I'm going to, again, it's another punt, right? But he scored last week. I'm going to go for Rodrigo of Leeds, 6.6%. Just because I think, being a Spurs fan, I do expect Spurs to win, but I do expect Leeds to score, and I expect Rodrigo to be involved. I did have a couple of other ones, but I'll go for him. Just a bit of a punt. Okay. Rich, your final player.
Last one. I've and ahed about this, but I've just literally gone and looked him up. This is quite an exciting player. He's 0.1% owned.
Wow.
I'm going on a couple of really, really good recent performances.
I know where you're going.
And he's playing Villa.
Yes, I nearly went for him.
I think he's Japanese. It's Mitoma.
Mitoma, yeah.
And I obviously can't have Trossard because he's too highly owned. So I'm going to cover that fixture with Mitoma, who's been absolutely on fire the last couple of weeks.
Good scored last night as well, didn't he?
He's my fifth pick. So I've got quite a lot of attacking quality in my 5. So pleased with that as the outcome. The other person I was really close to going for was Martial of Man United.
I looked at Martial as well. Yeah.
I want to see if he starts tonight or gets some minutes because he's hardly played, so he's a bit of a risk.
0.7% he was. And the other couple I had Eze. I know Adam sort of touched on him earlier, 4.4, and I think Xhaka at 3.9 is a good shout as well.
Yeah, excellent. So we got to pick a captain now, and then we'll.
Go on then. You choose your captain, Rich, from your 5.
Okay. My captain from that little lot is going to be Robbo.
Okay. Adam, who's yours?
Ooh, between Bruno and Maddo, who do I go for? I think there's more goals for Man United versus Fulham, so I'm going to go Bruno Fernandes.
I'm going to go for Nunes. Not massively exciting, but yeah,
no brainer that.
So we're going to add up all those scores next time, and we'll either have a prize for the winner or a forfeit for the loser. We'll have to decide that, chaps, before we start. But enjoyed that, and hopefully, it's given hopefully everyone watching and listening just a few ideas on maybe who to go with in terms of some final punts as we head into unlimited transfers. Just to say, the hub predictor, the much laughed at sometimes predictor, though it does actually do pretty well. I think you'll all find has Haaland top point scorer this week, 9.4, Salah 8.3, Kane 8.1, De Bruyne 8, Trent 6.2, Cancelo 5.9, Bernardo up there again 5.5, Bruno 5.4, Rashford 5.4, Zaha 5.4, Robertson, Bowen, Firmino. Ben Rama is probably the new name to pop in there. We haven't mentioned him actually, and he's a good pick.
He was certainly a candidate. I felt of mentioning. Possibly I should have had him over Bowen.
And he's been on pens as well, haven't he? So
he's on pens. Yeah.
I think he's another good one. Gundogan, Van Dijk, Darwin, Jesus, and Kanate fill up the top 20 there on predicted points. On the cap,
Darwin's quite low there. Is that just because of expected minutes?
I think he's down at something like 65, because it takes the average the last 5 or 6 games, and he just gets this odd. He gets hauled. He gets hauled off a lot. So if you think that Nunes is going to play 85, 90 minutes, you can bump up his score yourself there. But yeah, captaincy for game week 16. Just actually before we move on, we haven't mentioned Perisic very much, obviously because we were looking at players under 10% owned. But Perisic obviously played as basically a second striker last weekend. Hit the post, hit the bar. Thought played well. I think he got in loads of crosses, and I thought he played really well. He's definitely in my mind for this week. I think he plays again. I think Sessegnon actually went off injured last night as well. But I'm not sure whether that's a good or bad thing for him, because it'll probably mean he'll play left back instead of where he was last week. So
I was really surprised at that lineup last night for Spurs. Conte's just flogging these guys to death. I mean,
and then he has the cheek to say that Kane's knackered.
Exactly.
Bizarre.
I mean, I don't understand. They practically went full tilt away to Forest in the League Cup. And still lost anyway. I was quite surprised at the strength of the lineup there, given the schedule they've had.
Agree. So yeah, with Perisic, I still think he makes my team regardless. Because I think he'll play left wing back, but there is a chance that he plays in the front 2 or 3 as well. So I think he's a really good punt. Are either you guys eyeing him up this week?
Oh yeah, he's a good punt this week. Still, yeah, regardless of.
I think he is, but I think Leeds score. So
mentioned Rodrigo.
You're hoping for I think you're hoping for an attacking return. So, I think he's a good option this week. Yeah.
Captaincy for game week 16. We've just run through all the positions there. Haaland is obviously top. Looking at odds checker, odds Haaland 2 to 5. I did get corrected in chat last week. I keep saying 2 to 5 on. It's either 2 to 5 or 5 to 2 on. Apologies, it's just turn of phrase. But massive favourite to score any time. Salah 19 to 20 and Kane 11 to 10. So both of those are roughly evenly there. Haaland, outstanding in the predictor, in the odds checker odds, and in the vote. 83% of the vote he takes on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk as well. It's all down to a start, obviously. Guys, what are your thoughts? It's not who's the best captain, who's your vice, and how are you going to approach approach the deadline. I think is probably the more interesting conversation. Rich, what do you think?
I can't do the madness at 15 minutes to deadline. I'm helping my daughter move house this weekend, so basically I'm going to do get it ready, do my transfer early, forget about all the chaos, and just do a bus team. So I will captain Haaland and I'll vice captain.
Or as
Salah.
someone said, a server team. I think I heard that.
Yeah, server team. Yeah, it's Praz.
Yeah.
It's Praz again. Good shout. Yeah, I will do hard captain Haaland. I mean, if you watched last week, he only had less than half an hour. It was absolutely terrifying. Once he came on, if I end up captaining him and he is on the bench, I'll take that. And I'll take half an hour of him.
He nearly came away with 12 points in half an hour. Crazy.
I'll just captain him. If he misses out altogether, then Salah.
Who's your Salah's your vice? Is he Rich?
Salah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I could, it's safer to go Salah captain again. Obviously, got me 30 points last week. Be delighted, but I think just the effective ownership of Haaland, given my rank position, I don't want to bet against it right now. So it's sensible for me to stick with the herd and go Haaland.
Adam, any change to that, or will it just be on Haaland regardless? Are you going to have time? Oh yes, you are going to have time, aren't you? You sorted out with the wife.
Absolutely,
he's going to be right on the button.
Well, hopefully, but I think Haaland is a good captain regardless, even if he's getting 30 minutes off the bench.
Yes.
One thing I've noticed, and I was just going to try and check this, so I haven't done that yet, but when he scores, he seems to score goals quite close together. I don't know if you've noticed that. So like his hat tricks, they're not like one's in the first minute, one's in the 60th minute, then in the 80th minute. He seems to score goals quite quickly close together, I think. So, and even if you looked at the chances that he had in when he came on, he could have easily have had a brace. So I think he got one first half hat trick, didn't he? And then he got a second half hat trick against Palace, a first half hat trick against Forest. Is that right?
So yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So yeah, the only way, yeah. So if he doesn't start, I'll go Salah captain. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the.
If you can get on,
if you get early team news,
yeah. But I'm not. Worst case, if no one can get on the servers and he's still my captain and he's benched, it's not the end of the world. I don't think.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people will be in that position. So the good thing with Haaland is you're either going to get your vice captain or you're going to get 30 minutes, and he can score a brace in 30 minutes. So I don't think it.
No, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Adam, we now have your team on screen. Just want to quickly run through it and tell us your plan moves for the weekend.
Yeah, like I said, that Justin injury has hurt me a little bit. So I've got Pope in goal. I've got Cancelo and Trippier definitely starting. And then I've got to pick between Williams and Doherty, but I don't think Doherty's starting the weekend. So, and unfortunately for Williams, the left back who come in is at Lodel scored last night and played quite well by all accounts. So there's no guarantee Williams starts. So that's a bit of a frustration for me. Got what do I do there? I've then got my midfield's fairly settled. I've got Saka, Martinelli, Zaha, Salah, and Rashford. Happy with that. Not unless there's an injury tonight for Rashford or there's been one in training, I'm not going to change that. And then up front, I've got Haaland and Alvarez. So I'm very dependent. I've got 3 million in the bank. I'm very dependent on whether Haaland and Alvarez start. So I've got a few options, a few permutations here. If they do start, I'm going to do, if they both start, I will do a defensive transfer. So I'll do Justin or Doherty to, probably Justin to, I can go as high, I can go up to Trent, but I might go Perisic. I could go an Arsenal defender because I fancy Arsenal for a clean sheet. And actually, I think there's more. So I'm not too worried if I end up with loads of money left in the bank. If Alvarez doesn't start, but Haaland does start, I could do Alvarez to Darwin Núñez. But it means playing Nico Williams.
That's a great shout.
Yeah, it means playing Nico Williams. But I think, as I said to you before, there aren't many great shouts defensively this week. I think a lot of teams will score. And if I take a hit to get rid of a defender, it's effectively I'm going to need them to score at least. Let's say I think Nico gets 1 point. They're going to have to score 5 points to
break even, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not seeing loads of clean sheets. So it's quite, and it's a hard one to guess because we've both said we think potentially Leeds and Southampton could score.
Yeah.
That's where you see the upside. Arsenal, I can see a clean sheet, but you're relying on a defender goal there, which is again quite hard to predict. So, and Gabriel will be my choice, but he scored last weekend, so laws of averages, he's probably not going to. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I don't like starting Nico Williams, but if he gets me a 1 or 2 pointer, I can look at it in a way as a 6 pointer because I would have taken a hit. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and it just get to thing. The Darwin Núñez move is the sexy, exciting move. But like I said, I'd quite like another week of Alvarez because I just absolutely love him as a player. He's for me, he's a different. I much prefer him to Darwin Núñez as a player, as a footballer. He's incredible, absolutely. And the only reason we're not talking about him more is because of the player who's in front of him.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. Well set up there, Adam. As you say, that Williams thing is not the best, but your other 10 are really, really good. So I'm sure it'll more than make up for it. So well played, Rich. Your team looking in decent shape.
Yeah, very happy with it. Well set up. Got Trossard in last week with an eye on this week, so he's a good pick for this week if you do want to bring in a player and you've got a midfield slot. So happy with the midfield: Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, and Salah. I'm very happy to play Andreas this week because it looks like Mitrovic is out. There's been some news today that's confirming that he's broken 2 bones in his foot or something, and then he isn't even going to be fit for the Brazil match in the World Cup. So I can't see him playing against Man United. So this draft has him on the bench, but I'll probably be looking to take Mitrovic out for another player. Although I don't have to, I even have to bench Dunk without making any transfers, and he's got Villa at home. So he's a decent first sub. I put White in ahead of him in the defence just purely on Arsenal's form, and just going with the league leaders defender rather than Dunk, who's probably got the slightly better fixture than Ben White. I don't know. Would you play White over Dunk?
I think I would
play Dunk over White.
I think Villa will score.
Yeah,
Villa,
I was going to say,
they're giving up chances. I think they're great going forward, but they're giving up.
Thank you. That's helped me. Yeah. That's helped me. I mean, I could sell Wilson and I've got enough money. I've got 2 million. I've got enough to get Darwin for Wilson, but I quite fancy Wilson against Chelsea.
I do too as well.
Having just been called up as well, he'll be confident. He'll be looking to show Southgate what he can do. Hope he doesn't get injured.
I've got a fun move for you, Rich, which I would do. I think.
Go on.
You can't do Mitrovic to Darwin, can you?
1.1 short, unfortunately.
0.1 short. Okay, fine. I would probably do Andreas to someone like Elise, or just someone quite exciting who's got Forest away. Very low owned. I think there's very goals in that game.
Yeah.
I just think I like that pick. I just think he's. I know obviously I picked him on there, but I would probably do Andreas to a midfielder because I think outside of, because you would look talking about like Solanke and others, I think there's better midfield picks even for Bournemouth. I think the way Tavernier looks last game, I think Billing's got more upside than Solanke has. Yeah. So I would do Andreas up to what would you'd probably have about 6.5 million, wouldn't you? So there's some really
6.5 I can go to,
Yeah, there's some really good options, I think.
I'll have a look there. I mean, I just thought about keeping Andreas, but he's only gone up 0.1, hasn't he, all season?
We're only losing 0.1.
Just got to get him back.
Mega said Andreas to Ben Rama could be a good shout.
Yeah, that's another one.
Another
one that
and Alex says Mitro to Martial or Mitro to Jesus. You can't do Mitro to Jesus because you've got 3 Arsenal players, but
can you get Rashford?
I think he's 0.2 off Rashford.
Much, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm off
6.7 or 6.8 Rashford.
Mitro to Martial is one I'm interested in. If he plays tonight, I'd like him to get some minutes tonight, and then I'd feel that might be worth punting. But yeah, good shout on the Andreas thing. I'll have a look. But he'll be on penalties if Mitrovic isn't playing.
Yeah, there is that. I just think there's players with more upside, and I think I was looking at it earlier, so I don't know if I've got where I wrote the information on, but when I was looking at players, so this is it. So above 60 points, this is so and I've excluded the premium players here. There's 4 defenders, 13 midfielders, and 4 forwards. The forwards are rubbish in general. Outside of the real top players, they're not that good, and you have to spend a lot of money to get a good forward. So you're talking 8 million, really. You can't really get a good forward under 8 million at the moment, particularly for this week. So whereas you look at the midfielders, there are so many great options. You know, I think, you know, with Almiron coming in this year, and there's a lot of exciting options in midfield, and it's easier because of how points work in FPL, and they can get clean sheets and they can get an extra point for a goal. It's easier for them to haul than a striker. Striker gets a goal and a couple of goals, you get 12, 13 points, but you can get up to 16 points if the midfielder does the same. So I'd look at that personally.
Yeah, that's a good shout. What's just on that subject? You know, we talk about, obviously it's a long way to go. This isn't the last week, even though it feels like the last week. If you're holding a player and going to hold a player through the World Cup through to the other side, what's the sort of accrued team value that you would not be bothered about losing? What's your sort of limit whereby you want to keep a player? Would you so obviously Andreas being an example of just letting a 0.1 go and buying him back tomorrow for 4.6 and letting him go for 4.5? I'm okay with that, but when does it start to affect your decision where you're going to, like Haaland 0.7 now above base? I wouldn't sell him because of that at this stage. You know, Martinelli 0.8 above. Where would your limit be?
So it's a really good question. Just taking Andreas, I don't think Andreas is set for my squad after,
because there's so many other options. Bailey's now 4.5.
Matoma, Bailey at 4.5 could be absolute gold. Matoma,
I think Villa's fixtures are really decent after World Cup. I think they've got 3 of the first 4 at home, haven't they, or something?
Yeah, exactly. I think Pereira is a good option, but I think there's loads of good options in and around that price, or for a little bit more. So I wouldn't, for 0.1, I wouldn't worry about it. I think the likes of Martinelli and Haaland, where maybe you've got that Trippier, for example. I think if you've got more than 0.2, I think keep it. And you're planning, and you think you're going to keep them, I wouldn't sell them personally.
Yeah. Because for example, I could go all out, get Darwin for Wilson, but Wilson has a good fixture. He's just been picked for the World Cup, and I've got 0.3 of accrued value in him. So it'd be a bit annoying to buy him back for the rest of the season after the World Cup, wouldn't it? And have to pay 7.5 for him when I got him for 7.2.
I think if he was injured, maybe then you know, and you think Nunez is going to do well. I still don't think it's too bad a call there. But the fact that Wilson is probably as likely to return as Nunez anyway,
he is.
It just makes
exactly.
Makes no brainer to keep, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It does.
I think you should keep him.
Yeah.
Just quickly onto my team. Pope in goals. I have got Ward as well away to West Ham, but I think I'll stick with Pope. Chelsea just don't look very good in attack, do they? Even though they were very unlucky not to score against Man City last night.
Neither do West Ham, though.
No, that's fair. I've got Cancelo. At the moment, I've got Gehi away to Palace, Trippier and Dunk. I've got Zaha, Martinelli, Salah and Foden, and I've got Jesus with Haaland captain. Obviously, Mitrovic isn't there. I'm struggling to get excited about, and I've actually, it's the first time all season I've had 2 transfers, and it's the only week where I'm struggling to get excited about any move. I've got nothing in the bank. Obvious players and I've got Andreas on the bench even at the moment. Obviously if we get news that Foden is benched, he's a nice little cash cow to move on. Like Foden. I still fancy Rashford this week actually against Fulham. So I think Foden to Rashford would release well over $1 million. I could potentially do something like Gehi to Perisic, if I fancied that punt, but it's very much I can't do Gehi to Perisic without releasing the funds from somewhere else. So I need to give it a bit more thought, but I'm kind of happy with that team.
What about could you do Mitrovic to Darwin and then Foden to Almiron?
I don't think I'd have the funds for that. I don't think I think I'm a bit
short.
I think you could. I could I? If I could.
Yeah, well, that'll give you there.
Well, Foden, what's the difference? Is at least...
He's 8'3", and Almiron's 5'8". So that's 2.5.
Oh, it is then. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. Do it easy.
He looks... Almiron at the moment just looks incredible, I think.
What a shout. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. There you go.
Why would you? But you're going to have to wait for... See, you wouldn't do that if Foden was starting, would you? Or would you still get rid of him? I think Foden will start.
I think if Foden starts, you don't do that move. Yeah. But if he doesn't...
If he doesn't start, if he doesn't start, I think that is a no-brainer. Otherwise, I'm really not sure. I'm going to have to give it a bit of thought.
You got no money in the bank?
No, I haven't got any. I haven't got anything because I did.
Well, your obvious one is selling Mitrovic. I think your defense looks okay. So could you do? I would look at maybe Mitrovic and Andreas. Who could you swap them out for?
Yeah, potentially. But
what would you? How much money would you have for those two? So what? 4.6.
Mitrovic like 6.9 is he or something, or 7 maybe.
So you might be able to do something like to Almiron and Solanke.
Maybe.
Oh, actually, but then you got an extra.
But then I'm benching someone like Dunk or.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you've got you bench.
I could bench boost. I definitely won't bench boost.
Dunk could be benched, couldn't he? As you say, Adam's very optimistic about Villa's score.
Villa's score, I'm certain of that the weekend.
So that's convinced me that Dunk is benchable. Although he's not bad to play, but you don't have to go 4-4-2, do you? You could. I think you'd be better off going 3-5-2 or 3-4-3.
I need to give it a bit more thought, but I have 2 free transfers first time this season, and I don't know where to spend them.
Nice,
which is unbelievable. Really, I could even do it. I don't want to do a keeper transfer. I just don't know. I need to give it some thought. But anyway, reasonably happy. I think I'm the same as you guys. If I can just get a small green this week, I'd be pleased. It'd be interesting because there will be some people who have taken out Haaland and all that stuff. So I can see a few hits flying around.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of Haaland FOMO out in the community. Yeah. People who've punted it last week and are too scared to not bring him back. So you're going to see quite a few hits this weekend. I agree.
Okay, competition time for our YouTube watchers. Last week, the top scorer was Tavernier for Bournemouth, which, unsurprisingly, no one picked out Tavernier. So no winners last week. But for this week's competition, a chance with one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs just over Rich's shoulder there. You need to like this video, press a like button, make sure you are subscribed, and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in Game Week 16. We've just talked about lots and lots and lots of options for Game Week 16. Adam, if you were to pick one, obviously excluding Haaland, Salah and stuff, who was your pick for this week?
I know I've not captained him, but I'm going to stick with one of the players. I really like Elise. I really like the Forest. I think if they set up the same way as they did against West Ham, I fancy Palace to do well this weekend.
I'm excited you say that as a Zaha owner. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, Zaha's could be.
But I think it's if Zaha's playing through the middle, and because how they set up, they gave Eze, Elise, and Zaha, and if you look at the second goal, how they combined and how they. I think they're a better team. I really hope. I don't know if Edouard's fit, but I just hope he sticks with that as a Zaha owner.
Yep. Good stuff. Rich, who are you going with?
Well, he's a player I can't afford to get to, but I think he's going to smash it. And so going to go with my fear pick, which is Darwin Núñez.
One I could be moving to if
if I could get Darwin Núñez in one move, I would, but I still might off Wilson. I still might.
I think I'm going to go for Marcus Rashford against Fulham. Nearly brought him in last week. I could be bringing him in this week, but I do think Fulham's defence are dreadful, and I can see United scoring a couple of goals there. And Rashford's, I know United were particularly impressive last week against Villa, but I thought Villa played excellently. But before that, Rashford looked really good. So, yeah, we've had some shouts in the chat. Kushan's gone for Trippier. FPL Big Head's going for Wilson. Chris Jones going for Darwin. Helga is going for Trent. Christian says Trossard for captain. FPL Chester says Eze. And Ed Wells says Palace fan here. Elisa is a great pick, Adam. Absolutely love him. John Crowley going for Kulusevski, and FSL Popo says Darwin will smash it. Some interesting picks there. Make sure if you want a chance to win a mug, like, subscribe, and tell us in the chat who is going to be the top point scorer for Game Week 16. And that is it from us for this week, and indeed this half of the season. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Those who will watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support is very, very much appreciated. Just a reminder, our new My Team feature is now live to use yourself to pick a plan and optimize your FPL team. Suggested transfers is coming soon too. We're incredibly excited. It is in beta testing. And you know, where it tells you, it looks at your individual team and picks out the transfer that you should consider making that week. It is incredibly exciting. Go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and take a look for My Team for yourself. Suggested transfers coming very soon. There is still 30% off membership too. It won't last long. It's been going on for ages. It won't last much longer. So make sure you do it. We have got stacks and stacks of World Cup content for the official game, for the Telegraph game, for the Sky game, and for Sun Dream Team as well. So if you're after any World Cup stuff, fantasyfootballhub.co.uk for everything you need there. Adam, thank you so much for joining me as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
Where can people go? Twitter at Hopta Stats.
Lovely stuff. And thank you, Richard.
Don't even attempt to get hold of me between 10:30 and 11 o'clock on Saturday.
And Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you? You can't get hold of Rich during the time either because he's out doing other things. Unbelievable.
Moving house.
Moving house.
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter. Good luck everybody this weekend. Fingers crossed for everyone.
My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. We'll all be blue ticked soon, guys. We'll be blue ticked soon. Everyone in the chat. Everyone will be blue ticked soon. Can't wait for that.
Really? I'm not paying $8 or whatever.
This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please click the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave a comment. We will be back in a few weeks looking ahead to unlimited transfers and Game Week 17. We will be back probably in the week leading up to Christmas potentially. We'll have to work it out, but we will definitely do a pod or two ahead of Christmas and obviously ahead of Game Week 17. We will be revealing our latest drafts at that point as well. In the meantime, have a great Game Week 16. Enjoy the World Cup. Come on, Wales. And may all your arrows be green. Goodbye for now.